Hi everyone, welcome to today's discussion. We're diving deep into something every business leader is thinking about right now: how to get more out of every dollar spent on CapEx and OpEx. My name is Marta, I'm head of content at BI, and I've got the privilege of hosting some of the sharpest minds in the industry from BI. Trust me, those are the people you want in your corner when it comes to making your budget work smarter and not harder. Let's face it, economic uncertainty and rapid tech shifts aren't making life any easier for decision makers. If you're still stuck with spreadsheets and outdated workflows, you're leaving money and opportunities on the table. So today we're talking real strategies, cutting edge tools, and valuable insights to help you turn those headaches into major wins. Here with me is Alexandar Denchev, who brings a decade of experience in financial planning and analysis, as well as integrated business planning. So let's take the stage. Alex, could you please say a few words about yourself, and then we'll continue talking about striking the right balance between CapEx and OpEx.
Thank you, Marta. As I was already introduced, thank you for which. My name is Alex. I have been working with EPM solutions for almost a decade now, and we've had different scopes of customers working with us, providing solutions to them. And I would say that mainly focusing on operating expenses has been something that we've been working on quite a lot in the past few years. So I'm eager to sharing some knowledge with you and the audience.
Thank you so much. I'm sure they will appreciate it. So, starting with the questions, I mentioned about striking a balance between CapEx and OpEx. Why is this such a big game changer for businesses right now?
So I would say that the right balance between capital and operating expenditures would be a game changer indeed, because it's directly impacting the company's financial health, the agility of the company, and their competitiveness on the quickly shifting market. On CapEx side, the significant investments in assets like infrastructure, technology, or other types of capital expenses are essential for the long-term growth of the company. But the large amounts of capital can quite heavily burden the balance sheet, and mismanaging the capital expenses can lead to overinvestment in assets that don't really generate the expected return of investment, or they can quickly become obsolete. And on the other side, for the operating expenses, we can say that they do offer more flexibility. However, if the OpEx is too high, it can definitely affect the profitability of the company, and it can strain the cash flow. So basically, what we can have as an example for that is that the market recently has been shifting to subscription-based services or cloud solutions, and that often moves costs from capital to operating expenses, which requires the businesses to rethink their budgeting and resource allocations. And right now, with the volatile economic environment that we have and the businesses that need to remain responsive to changes, we see more and more investors and shareholders that also expect their companies to show both efficiency and innovation. And when we think about that, we can say that the right balance is the thing that can ensure those organizations can invest strategically in their growth, while also maintaining enough flexibility for their day-to-day operations to not be hindered, and also possibly, of course, respond to market shifts, which is quite critical on the overall status of the business. And of course, meeting customer demands is always critical.
I see. Thank you for the very, very detailed explanation. Now, from your perspective, what are some of the classic mistakes companies make when trying to align their CapEx and OpEx strategies, and how do they come back to haunt them later on?
So from what I've seen and what a lot of companies do, we can say that the two main mistakes would be prioritizing either or. So either prioritizing CapEx or OpEx, whereas we should be going for the balance that we just talked about. And when prioritizing capital expenses without actually fully assessing the long-term return on the company's investments or the total cost of ownership, they might invest heavily in new infrastructure or technology without really counting what are going to be the ongoing maintenance costs, upgrades, or operational expenses. And over time, those hidden costs, they definitely strain the budgets, and they make the investment less valuable and not and drive the return of investment down more than anticipated. The other issue, of course, when we go the other direction, is when the company overfocuses on operating expenses to try and preserve the cash flow. But while that does provide flexibility, we don't want to rely too much on operational spending. For example, leasing equipment or subscribing to different and multiple software solution platforms, that can actually lead to increasing recurring costs. And this can affect negatively the margins, and ability to reinvest will be quite limited afterwards. Additionally, companies also often fail to align their CapEx and OpEx strategies with their business goals. And they might, for example, pursue some CapEx-driven innovation without really considering how the operational budget will support that implementation or how the solution will scale over time. And this disconnect is what results in the inefficiencies and underdeveloped resources and more or less reduced competitiveness with the other players on the market who actually thought about that.
Can you give us a behind-the-scenes look at industries where getting this balance right or wrong has made a massive impact?
So I would say that with the example that I gave before, maybe the tech industry is one of the best examples we have, because we can think about companies that actually moved from heavy CapEx investments to more OpEx focused. And if we go back to the example of data centers and investments in capital expenditures, on-premises data centers are replaced by cloud subscription based solutions, and that gains agility and scalability. They could innovate faster and they can enter markets quicker this way and scale resources can go up or down based on the demand. But on the other side, companies that we can see have delayed their shift and they're stuck with their CapEx-based infrastructure, CapEx-heavy infrastructure, they sure find themselves quite burdened with the maintenance costs and the lowered flexibility as compared to OpEx-based solutions. And many of these companies, at some point, they just start to fail to compete. They are no longer credible. Their competitors eat them up on the market. And especially now that the customer expectations are leaning towards cloud native services, that is quite often the case. Other examples, I would say maybe going forward to more CapEx based examples, we can think about maybe retailers. So retailers are good examples because those that have invested heavily in brick and mortar expansions, which is more or less the CapEx approach, without balancing it with the investments in operating expenses and digital transformation, e-commerce platforms, or optimizing the supply chain, they at some point just find themselves at a disadvantage. And as a consumer behavior which is shifted online, they couldn't really pivot quickly enough and they're stuck with underperforming physical assets. Maybe also the energy industry is something that's impacted this way as well, because a lot of companies that invest heavily in renewable infrastructure, renewable energy infrastructure, like solar farms, wind farms, but they underestimate the operational costs of those integrations of these assets and their maintenance afterwards. They can face the financial and operational challenges when knife comes to the bone, basically. And at the same time, those energy providers would strategically place them their balances in the CapEx to OpEx balance. They can definitely work with operational budgets for training and grid upgrades, and are now better positioned to meet regulatory and consumer demands.